Welcome fans and foes, viewers and haters. I'm your Raging Canadian and here's today's review. Some of you may recall that in my High Five Chameleon actors list, I named Gary Oldman as my number one. I was so confident in Oldman's performances that I actually challenged my viewers to find me a terrible Gary Oldman role. Granted, people like the Nostalgia Critic have criticized him for his performances in Quest for Camelot and Lost in Space, but I have seen both of those films and they're not as terrible as he made them out to be. So I figured if those were the so-called worst roles of Gary Oldman's career, I could endure any movie with him in it. Well, I was wrong, because whether or not somebody ever intended to live up to my challenge, I did find a bad Gary Oldman role. That would have to be Mr. Zorg in the movie The Fifth Element. But to the credit of him and the other actors, it's not entirely their fault. This whole movie was ridiculous. I'm fully aware that The Fifth Element has a good number of positive reviews, but you're not always going to have everybody like the same movie. I didn't hate the movie, I just didn't like it. Greatly. The Fifth Element is set in the future, where every few hundred years, a great evil, seriously that's what they actually call the thing, comes to Earth to destroy it. The only thing that can stop it is the gathering of all five elements: water, fire, earth, air, and an unknown one. Apparently that fifth element is the alien being called Leeloo, played by Milla Jovovich, who with the help of Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis, must gather the elements together before the sinister Mr. Zorg, played by Gary Oldman. So let's get the pros over with. The movie did have awesome visual effects with bizarre costumes and set designs to balance out this weird future. But this was not an art film like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a science fiction adventure, but it's suffocated by a script that I just can't wrap my head around. The first card I am definitely playing first is what the frig is going on? Because I found myself asking that quite a lot. Why does Gary Oldman's head bleed in the middle of a phone call? How do those soldiers survive a deep freezing in Corbin's fridge? Why does this movie play itself like a comedy half the time? What's that big black planet thing? How did Zorg find out about these alien guys? How does Leeloo know she's supposed to find the specific priest? How do these people find Ruby Rhod so sexy? How does a planet make a phone call? Why? Seriously, there's suspension of disbelief, and then there's asking how many times you're gonna leave stuff in the dark for us. We're the audience members. We like to be informed. If you haven't seen this movie, believe me, I haven't spoiled much for you. Because chances are, you'd likely be asking yourself the same questions while watching it. About 3/4 in, I just gave up. Seriously. I had to watch this movie with subtitles on, or else I wouldn't have been able to understand as much as I did. And trust me, that wasn't a lot. Try and imagine a film where every actor except for Bruce Willis sounds, performs, and looks like they've done an hour of cocaine and speed. Then add Chris Tucker into the mix. You've got yourself the experience known as Fifth Element. I mean, there's actors like Ian Holm who only have some goofy moments, but then there's characters like Gary Oldman's. Zorg is the movie's villain, and he's got to be one of the most absurd antagonists that I've seen in years. And I saw Bulletproof Monk. Zorg's southern accent is just comical, and his mannerisms are totally off the wall. The only conclusion that I could draw is that the director said, just play him like a clown. But then why are you trying to make him look like such a serious menace? Though I do have to be fair, the character of Leeloo, played by Milla Jovovich, had a right to be eccentric given her character analysis. But still, in parts of her story, she's taken in very awkward directions. For example, she begins to build a romance with Corbin throughout the movie. The problem? Jovovich and Willis have zero chemistry together. She fits more as a daughter figure than a love interest, so their relationship just feels uncomfortable. Speaking of discomfort, you know who I'm bringing up next. Alright, my feelings on the film aren't like that of most critics, but there's one thing I definitely agree with them on. Every second of Chris Tucker as Ruby Rhod made me wish I never had ears! People seem to find Tucker's acting annoying in a lot of his films. Well, guess what? If you haven't seen The Fifth Element, you don't even have the right to spell annoying. This guy can't utter a syllable unless it's spoken at high-pitched lightning speed, and he screams like a 4-year-old girl. When this guy's getting shot at, you don't care about his safety. You're praying he dives headfirst for the bullets. I ask you again, how in even a fictional future do women find this guy sexy? Is idiocy the new it? I think I could not have followed any more than half the plot of this movie from beginning to end. Maybe other people did, and if so, good for you, cause I wish I did. The movie just felt like a roller coaster of confusion, especially when the only way you're gonna figure out the plot is through the dialogue of people who can't seem to take a breath. Frankly, the music doesn't know what to do with itself. 1 minute it's played like something that's supposed to be taken seriously, the next it feels like they ripped it out of a Three Stooges sketch. This is what divides the direction so badly. If you wanted to make it a satire, make it a satire. If you wanted to make it serious, make it serious. Stop switching every 10 minutes! Like I said before, there are people out there who did give Fifth Element praise, so I know that my criticism is very indifferent from others. But I can't just say it was good when I barely understood the plot and found myself wondering how half these actors could play their characters like they did. It's an interesting and eccentric take on the future, and the scenery is good to look at, but it's nothing I'd stop and smell the roses for. My rating for The Fifth Element is a 3 out of 10. Seriously, he was that annoying!